All right, Dave, we're on the air finally. East County Prep Football Report for Week 6. Now, sorry getting on so late. Sorry to keep you so late. I'll try not to keep you 90 minutes tonight, Dave. We just got so much to talk about. We're trying to get all the information we can. There's some breaking news that you have right now that you're going to tell us about involving a Grossmont Valley League game, and then we're going to go into the games. I mean, we have some great games that are kind of almost on the back burner. We'll also have our first look at the release of the CIF power rating. So that's big news too. But Dave, what do you have for us? Some important news that everybody needs to know about?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think it's a shame too, because this particular team, it's they've been taking shots left and right at and I'm talking about Mount Miguel. They're trying to get these games in, and it seems like they've had quite a few issues, and not of their own fault, but once again they have due to COVID protocols, the Santana Mount Miguel game unfortunately has been canceled, and I don't have any more details at this point, but I'm assuming that they are not going to play that game. As we've seen before, they do not make up those games. So at this point in time, it's just a shame. Mount Miguel loses a game, and now Santana is going to be down a game as well. I got that from the horse's mouth. I just got that text from head coach Tim Estes. So really a shame, but we figured this could happen. Everybody was prepared for this. It's unfortunate, but hey, look at it this way. For Santana especially, it's only one game they've missed so far. It's not like the whole Grossmont Conference or the Western Conference. We're not missing every game. So unfortunately, it's due to happen. But I just, you know what? My thoughts go out to, and prayers go out to Mount Miguel and also to Santana. I know that they would love to be out on the football field this week, but we wish you all the best, and get practiced up. You're going to have both of you are going to have one up on the next team that you play. So congratulations for more time to get ready. But again, we apologize that you can't make that game. I'm very sorry for that.
Yeah, David, it doesn't look like, given the schedule, there'd be any room to complete that game. In fact, you had mentioned that Santana, although we haven't seen teams really been able to replace opponents on such late notice, even though now teams can, of course, play on Saturday. And right now, I believe on Sunday has been approved. If something were to come about, I guess you could schedule a game even for a Sunday now. But certainly respect any time that these games are unfortunately canceled. We know that, it affects someone within the program, and it could affect someone, a loved one. And, you just got to take these precautions. So, Dave, that's very important news. Thank you for that. And I think Santana did say they were looking for a game, right?
Yeah,
Not to point which team. I mean, that's not even saying which team had the protocols. I don't even think you mentioned that. But Santana's available for a game.
I believe it was Mount Miguel, but that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to put it out there, though, that Santana is. I'm sure they're looking for a game. So if anybody out there had a bye, or if you guys are looking for somebody to play that's maybe even out of the county, I'm sure Santana would love to compete and continue their momentum, as they're having a fantastic season so far. So at any rate, thoughts and prayers go out to both of you guys, Mount Miguel, and to the kids at Santana. But moving on.
And one more note there, Dave. Santana, that will affect how the league standings actually end up finishing, because they will be a short one game. So maybe the sporting thing will be to see if they all have zero. Well, not all of them will have zero losses, obviously, but look, Santana was going to win this game quite likely over Mount Miguel, and I think anyone with a sporting opinion can say that that would be the case, even though Mount Miguel has a game where they really looked good. You can never assume that. And I don't want to make judgments down the line. Let's just hope we can get through the whole schedule. They will be eligible. Right now, Dave, the CIF said that if a team did end up short of 9 games, you have to have 9 games apparently to make the playoffs, that, CIF could make amends for that and fix that. And I think that's what you see when they say, even though they're going to adhere to their power ratings to do the seeding, they have the ultimate authority to make any little changes, even in minor adjustments in seeding, placements of league champions that maybe didn't qualify through the rating system and things like that. So Santana's on pace for 9 games though now.
Well, yeah, and like you said, you mentioned the 9 games, but they also said that there's exceptions to the rule. I mean, especially COVID, it's out of their hands. The unfortunate thing I know though with Mount Miguel, the one game that they missed for a lack of staff, unfortunately, that one I believe, according to the rules, they would eat that one, which is unfortunate. But anything COVID related, 9 games or not, if that were to happen again, and we pray it does not happen. But I'm just saying that who knows? Maybe they're going to, if it comes down to a really closely matched league title, who knows? Maybe they'll do what they're doing in baseball. Maybe they'll do a 1-game wild card type situation to figure out who's going to get into the playoffs. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, the playoffs start abruptly, especially with the format. And with the ratings that came out today, and Mount Miguel is going to be short games, and they are right now, I think they were 12th or 13th. I'll pull them up as we go along so we can start to touch on those. I just saw them over the last hour or two. So appreciate that, Dave. Credit to you, Dave Dickens of EastCountySports.com, breaking that news of the cancellation of the varsity game between Mount Miguel and Santana. And I agree with you. And hearts to both teams, but my heart really feel for those Mount Miguel Matadors this season having a second game canceled already. They might be the first in the county, I think, with 2 cancellations. I'm not sure about that.
Terrible.
This has just come down. So let's start with an important league game, Dave, right away, because this is I would say that I'm going to call it the feature game. We'll get right back into the Valley League in just a moment, Dave. But the Christian Patriots are going to take on the La Jolla Vikings in the Eastern League opener. Dave, the Patriots are red hot right now after that victory out in the hot temperatures of El Centro, but they look terrific in that game. Great fight by the Central Union Spartans. They're a good team, a fun team to watch. Christian did the job out there, and with La Jolla, looks like they're not as good as we expected. They do have a 2-3 record. Maybe they're better than this record shows, but yet they are a disappointment so far.
Yeah, you remember they came out the gate and they had that, what was there, about 100 points scored between the 2 teams when they played Scripps Ranch. You really wondered what it was going to be like because of how they came out red hot. I wanted to just mention, and this was coming from Dan Mitchell, and I'm sure many people read it as well. But there was 3 players listed as players of the week also because of their last game, and that was against Central Union. That was junior quarterback Jake Davila, also wide receiver Joey Merritt, and senior wide receiver, the speedy guy, Mr. Speedy Gonzalez, that I love so much, and that's J.C. Gustin. These guys,
wow.
So those 3, I mean, it's to be expected that those 3, they've been money, I think, in just about every game they've played this season. So these guys will be key contributors offensively, and also alongside the entire offensive line. And that comes from Coach Mitchell. He wants to make sure that they get the credit where credit is due. And you got to remember, too, their captains are on that offensive line, and they're very highly respected. How did he put it? They're going to be able to violently handle that front line when they match up against La Jolla. And we all know, too, that it's become somewhat of a rivalry with those two. You remember, just in the spring, they squared up, and that was at Valley Stadium. It got a little bit out of hand. One of the quarterbacks was out early, little John, a little taunting. But the funny thing is they continue to do pretty well defensively. One of the and this comes from Danny, also Coach Dan Mitchell, and he can't say enough great things about what he says is the best defensive coordinator, and that's in Pat Kelly. And I mentioned that to you before the show, that he got to win a national championship, his first national championship at the young age of 24, and Pat Kelly was his defensive coordinator at the time, and that was in the I believe it was the German Football League, and just he said as far as Pat Kelly goes, an incredible teacher, incredible coach, and that they pride themselves as far as their defense is concerned. And he said to also look out for those front four in 6'5", Brady Deercup, and you already know that one, sophomore Ryder Jennings, and also Troy McFarland. And I mean, we all know Shane Bailey from not only football, but we also know he did phenomenal things for Coach Mike Mitchell when he was swinging the stick, and quite a few great plays on the baseball diamond as well. So, they may be down in some ways, but you know what? I really can't see anything that they can't compete with this La Jolla team. I wanted to add to it real quick, and I didn't want to take too much time, but he also mentioned that La Jolla is extremely well coached, and seeing now how fast their team plays, they like to play real fast. Coach Roach and his staff, some of the best in San Diego is what he was talking about, which is why they compete in the Western League, which he'd like to also let everybody know, arguably the toughest league in San Diego. You know what? I tend to agree, Ramon. I don't know if you have the same sentiments. And
for sure, Dave.
Now we got to continue. He just says continue to focus on their roles on each side of the ball. And I don't know. I think that they got a good shot. I don't think La Jolla has the same team as last year. They don't have the same dominance. So this could be a very high-scoring game, I'm going to say.
Oh, I think so. I think it could be a very high-scoring game, Dave. I was thoroughly entertained by the Patriots last week in that game. Not only from Jay, Dave, you said you spoke with the Davila family, and that Jake was ready to go that night. So really, it just must have been a scare. Maybe, when the first time you really get hit, I think it was a back bruise, right? Was he hit hard and he went to the hospital, in an ambulance? So you don't think, but he comes out of the hospital, and a week later he throws for, almost 300 yards in the game. And the way Joey Merritt threw that pass to J.C. Guston, he just threw it off his back foot. He kind of, Hail Mary'd it a little bit, and Guston's so good. He had that touchdown. He had the long touchdown to start the game. He's explosive. He might be one of the most underrated players in the county right now. But this game rates incredibly close. The computer ratings have Christian as the slightly better team. You got to give La Jolla some credit for being at home at Scripps Field. I would think a little bit of home field in this game might even it up a little bit. And then the ratings, the CIF ratings that just came out, Christian is 5th in Division II. La Jolla is 8th. Christian's actually tied for 5th with Rancho Bernardo and Valley Center. A lot of the numbers look alike on this first release of the CIF Power Rankings, but 5th place is outside of the first round bye. So it'll be a big, big, important win, whoever gets this game. It's virtually a toss-up. I don't think I heard you make a prediction, Dave, but I just want to tell you how much I enjoyed the Patriots last week in that performance at Cal Jones Field. A come-from-behind win, 44-28, and we're going to see a lot of points in this game, I would think too, like you said. Who you got, Dave? I know you're going with the Patriots, but
Well,
do you respect La Jolla still, even though they've lost some games? They haven't been. They started the season in the top 10, and right now, they're not there. One more, I want your opinion, Dave. One more thing I want to tell you though, Christian right now in the computer ratings that you love, they are ranked 3rd in the East County. They are only behind Helix and Granite Hills. Christian is ahead of all those Valley League teams named West Hills, Santana, and El Capitan. Christian 3rd in the East County in the computer ratings. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to give you also another fact, and this came from Coach also, that they have not beaten La Jolla as a school since 2013, and that was in a playoff game.
Yeah, 2004. I want to say it's 2014.
And you know what? He says he knows that they're the underdog, but and I've talked to the players themselves before. They love being the underdog. They like that more than anything, being the underdog, because I think they know that they're going to go out there and they're going to prove to all the naysayers. But you're talking about Jake, and I remember I told you about him coming out. You were kind of concerned. But after talking to both he and his father, I think that I was thinking that it was a bruise, and to come out there firing like that, I figured for sure he was going to start and continue. So I think after that and that performance that he had last week in that heat, I have no qualms about it. I'm going to pick Christian by 21.
Oh my gosh!
To upset the La Jolla Vikings on their turf.
I think Christian's great. I love to watch them, and I've got Christian winning this one by 1 point. So either way, we like Christian to get that revenge back against La Jolla, right?
Well, I wanted to add one more thing to that. Yeah. They definitely did it on the baseball diamond, and they did it in fantastic fashion. So I thought I'd add that too.
Okay. Well, that was a great game last week. I watched it from start to finish. Okay, and we can, if you want to talk a little bit about Santana, we can, about their 5-0 start, but let's go right into the Valley League and talk about West Hills. They're 5-0 now, Dave, and man, they're off to a terrific start. They're going to have a big season, Dave, no matter how you look at it, especially when they get down to some of those two big games, and they're going to be expected to win here against Valhalla. Although you talk about it, I think Valhalla just beat them a couple of years ago. Although West Hills came back and beat them in the playoffs, and that was at Valhalla. But it's a different story now.
Well, I can tell you right now, and I was fortunate to get a couple of sound bites from Coach Ash, and he summed it up pretty simply, and said need to get off to a fast start, dominate the line of scrimmage. He mentioned Andrew Ingstrom, Gavin Condon, and Yad Galaxy. And he basically just said that they have to have a great game. Not they should have a great game, but they have to have a great game. And then also expecting, and this name from last week, expecting a breakout game from sophomore running back Diego Calderon. And we've called his name out quite a few times. So I think it doesn't have to be the Oberg and Max Conaway show, which we love that show. It works really well. We even like the Dylan Snyder show that goes along with Oberg. But I think that these guys are going to kind of mix it up a little bit. I think you're going to see something different. They are playing Valhalla. I think that Coach Ash isn't somebody that runs up the score or anything like that. So I think that he's going to kind of mix it up and do some different things that possibly we haven't seen before.
Yeah, if you're expected to win a game, I'm not saying, put it in the win column for West Hills. I think they're about a 3-touchdown favorite. That's the way it looked to be, in the computer ranking. So I could see West Hills. I think what you're suggesting, Dave, is that West Hills is going to get some experience for their guys, and maybe we'll see more of Colin Dill at quarterback. He looks like he's going to be a thrilling player for years to come. The power ratings by the CIF right now, Dave, have West Hills in the mix for a first round bye. They were ranked third in the first release. So that's good news for West Hills. And I think it's a deserving spot. And I think if they, you and I have called them the favorites. And no disrespect to Santana and El Capitan, we think that all the teams are very even, but West Hills has that home field advantage on both those opponents. So they've earned that, and we think it's going to be very important. So we've seen upsets with those teams before, especially in the rivalry series. So, on those nights, you can call who you want to win, Dave, but we both said last week that that's a pretty big advantage.
Well, the way I look at it, and you touched on it briefly just a second ago, West Hills is not there. It's not just this year. I think they got a team that's going to be good for probably the next 2 or 3 years. They got some great freshman players. They have some great JV players. I think that this West Hills football program is going to be pretty tough to beat for the next couple of years. So I think Coach Ash definitely has some championship caliber for quite a few years. I'm not going to say that East Santee doesn't have some great players as well just down the street, but I can tell you the Wolfpack is back, and that is it.
Yeah, and they're going to be a championship. I will say, contender. Mater Dei is in Division III, and so is Santa Fe Christian. Those will be extremely tough opponents in the playoffs, but it'll be exciting to see, West Hills or, go up against a team like that, or Santana, El Cap. They're all in there. It's the great thing about that Division III is all three of those teams, are in the mix as well. And let me tell you this about Valhalla, Dave. They're in Division 4, and right now they're sitting 5th. So all they need to do is take care of business really against they need to beat the Braves, they need to beat the Monarchs. But if they can go out and upset one of the bigger teams in the league race, that will secure a playoff berth. Valhalla will probably they're in a pretty good position to make the playoffs. So if you have anything to say, I mean, West Hills is about 3 touchdown favorite, and I imagine they'll win this one by 2 or 3 touchdowns for sure. If not, maybe a little more. Valhalla, I know they have a lot to prove, and I think they can be competitive in these Valley League games.
Well, again, I don't want to take anything away from Valhalla either, and I know that they're in a rebuilding year, and I thought that look, just no offense to Charles Bussey, but you get a new coach, but you got the same team, so you can't throw it all on the coach as far as how the team is going right now. And not just that, but they're competing with some fantastic teams, as far as talent wise in the Valley League. I mean, we've beat this dead horse quite a few times, and how much better the Valley has become, and how much more talent. I'm not saying that there's no talent in the Hills, but it's just kind of shifted a little bit over to the Valley, and it's very exciting to watch. And I've been fortunate to see all of them play so far. And I will tell you, after seeing West Hills twice, they are going to be the team to beat. And everybody can, taunt their Mater Deis and teams to that. But you know what? I think that this team, they don't make mistakes very often, and that is the key. They don't turn the ball over. You don't turn the ball over, guess what? 9 times out of 10, you're going to win. So I think that's where they own it, and I think that they could compete with any of those teams that you mentioned. So I'm still sticking. You called me out last week at the end of the show. I still say West Hills is top dog. Don't get me wrong. I still think the same of El Capitan and Santana, but we'll get into that later.
Okay. I don't want to say we just thought that West Hills has those teams at home. gives them the slight advantage. But look, that's how close those teams are. And if you look at the Division III ratings, West Hills is third, but Santana is sixth, and El Capitan is seventh. So any of those teams could end up with buys, and West Hills could drop out if they are, I don't want to say upset in those games, but they will be at home in closely rated games where you'd think you're supposed to win your league games at home. So
it all comes to health. It all comes to health, sir.
And a little bit more breaking news. I think we have breaking news on every game, but West Hills coach Casey Ash, he was the Chargers Coach of the Week for last week's games. So congratulations to Coach Ash, another East County winner of the Coach of the Week award.
Great job, Coach.
Might not be the last East County winner when we get some of these other games going. Okay, Dave, this is going to be kind of an important game. We're wrapping up the Valley League, so El Cajon Valley is at Monte Vista. I know both these teams know that, this is a game where they can look forward to a competitive matchup with their opponent and know that they need to go out and do a great job in order to win, and that they can win, right? So Monte Vista needs a victory. Braves are, playing pretty well, just at their 1-4 record. Monte Vista, this is their chance at a victory.
Well, look, I mean, you got to consider too. They have been in almost every single game they played this season so far, with the exception of two, and in particular their opening game. And I like to toss that one out, just and call it was due to rust. I did also speak with Coach Osborne, always a great quotable individual. No offense to any other coaches, I love talking to Coach Osborne. He's got the X's and O's and hits the nail on the head and all that other good stuff. And this is what he had to say: every man that touches the ball needs to keep it secure. Ball security, I mean, that's going to be the biggest thing. And preventing turnovers is the key. All our backs have all the backs, they got to tuck that ball away. The quarterback has to make smart decisions, and, they have to play both ways, and they need to make sure that they're making plays too on the defensive side. They got the strong defense out the backfield and many turnovers. And where there's pressure or defenders getting behind the line of scrimmage, in a sense, we are all responsible as far as the ball is concerned. But we have to limit the big plays. And if anybody makes the big plays as far as turnovers, they need to be in favor of that. And the last thing he did mention about Monte Vista, they may be because we've heard this quite a few times about numbers. So they may be down in numbers some ways, but again, they're not overlooking the Monarchs. They have to come to play, and they need to come to play hard because and that's happened in the past. Case in point. Santana a few years ago, they were undefeated, and homecoming night they went into Monte Vista, and they got beat pretty bad. So you never know.
And is it homecoming at Monte Vista this week? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, here's the thing I see, Dave, and I'm not saying when I say I'm not disrespecting my Braves at all. When I say that this is Monte Vista's chance, but because the Braves, if you look at the computer ratings, Dave, the Braves are probably almost 2 touchdown favorites. I think they are 2 touchdown favorites. Throw in the homecoming, throw in Monte Vista's at home, and the fact that Monte Vista's won 5 straight meetings against the Braves. We know that this is a different Monte Vista situation right now, but the Monte Vista philosophy isn't going to change, and they still have bigger players up front, and the Braves do not have the same challenge to Monte Vista as some of those early Monte Vista opponents that we saw them get, steamrolled, right? This is a competitive game. This is why this makes this so interesting, and both teams going to need this win if they have any shot to get something going for a play to qualify for the playoffs. Important game, no doubt about it. Neither team can afford to lose this one, but it's a series that Monte Vista has really just dominated.
And they have dominated it, but I will tell you this: I think if there was ever a year for the year of the Brave, I think that this would be the year where I think the Braves have their best chance at defeating the Monarchs. And
Yeah.
I mean, first and foremost, the way Cal Gordon has been playing, not only on everybody thinks of the touchdowns, and he's catching touchdowns, he's rushing for touchdowns, but let's not forget about his defensive play too, making some phenomenal tackles. He's sacking, he's stripping ball. I mean, that kid is one phenomenal athlete, and you've seen the numbers yourself, and so I think that I'm sure he's going to be double teamed for sure. They're going to be looking out for him, and on the same token, over on Monte Vista side, they're also going to be looking at Aiden Roby. They're going to make sure they hone in on him as well. But as we've seen, it's kind of turned into a committee of running backs over at Monte Vista as well now.
Dave, I'm totally impressed by Gordon. The Braves have had some pretty great runners over the last couple of years. I'm not sure that Gordon is not better than any of those. He might be better than those last couple of stars the Braves had. I don't know how you feel about that, but I really like the way he performs.
But I'll tell you what, he gives all credit due to kids like Luis Hernandez. He will not. He said, you know what? How did I get those touchdowns? Because I had my blockers. And I said, okay, but you're the one that scored all the touchdowns. No, it was the blockers. And how did you win this game tonight? Because we executed the plays that were designed. And it's all about execution, and it's all about our blocking up front. So very humble kid. And he even went on, you saw the interview, he went on to talk about how important the business is in the classroom. So this is a very bright young man, bright future, not only on the field, but off of the field as well.
Now, the Braves got some other good players. We saw, some good performance from them, but watch for Gordon on Friday night. I got the Braves winning this one by a touchdown.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go one up on you as well. I'm gonna say I got the Braves by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think they're favored to close by 2 touchdowns. I just want to give Monte Vista a chance in this game because they need to get a victory. I want all of our teams to get a victory. I want the Braves to win. Can I flip a coin? What I'm trying to say. I mean, and it could be a close game. It could be the best game of the night, really, if you think about it. As far as close.
It could be the game. Hey, look, it could be the game of the week as far as being a closely contested game for the Valley. If you want to watch a game, I think it's going to not be a blowout. I would definitely say if you're out in the Elkhorn, or should I say out in the Spring Valley area, why don't you buy a ticket and go out there and see 2 teams?
And it's homecoming.
Yep.
See all the Monarchs. Please come out to this one. Please support this team. They deserve your support. Look, we've told the story every week that it's all about the numbers. We know. I mean, that's all there is to it. That's the situation they're up against right now.
Well, you know what? They've had so many winning teams, and I think it's just a down year. But I can tell you right now, rest assured, and I would tell that to Coach Hamamoto as well. Monte Vista will be back quickly.
Okay, Dave. We're going to get into some big matchups now. So, just wanted to give our team. Those are games involving 2 of our teams. Now we got some non-conference games, some big intra-sectional matchups, including. How about this one, Dave? Number 8 Helix. I have them as kind of underrated right now in all the polls. I still think they're pretty strong. Unfortunately, Dave. The good news is they're going up against the 3rd-rated team of the Trinity League. But of course, if you're the 3rd-rated team in the Trinity League, like Servite is, you're also the 3rd-ranked team in the state of California. So it's Helix going up against the 3rd-ranked team in the state of California, the Servite Friars. And it doesn't get any easier for Helix, Dave. Next week, The Friar, they play Mission Viejo. Helix plays Mission Viejo at home. Servite beat Mission Viejo 44-7. So,
well, it's something that I think that the Highlanders have been accustomed to anyhow, playing a lot of these out of state or playing some of these Bay Area teams, and I'll tell you what, I think it's because of the talent that they've had for so many years, and I don't think that they lack the talent. I mean, you throw out the Cathedral game, and Helix has been playing pretty phenomenal football so far this year. I mean, you look at last week and talk about a bounce back, and Christian Washington hasn't missed a beat. They keep handing him the rock. And what about Riley Jesse? I mean, he, I think that kid is looking better and better. I don't even know if I was Robbie Owens, if I would even pull him. I think he's getting better. He's getting used to the position, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up playing all 4 years behind center, because I got to hand it to the kid. The kid's getting better. He's getting to know the offense. Just give him a few more weapons, and I think that this Helix team will be right back where they have been for several years.
Yeah, they had a big performance against Saints, and they've taken care of business against local teams, Dave. It's just, you talk about the games we've lost to COVID. The Helix Mater Dei game really would have went a long way for Helix. You look at the way that the power ratings just came out in Division I, and it was a bit of I don't know if it was a surprise, because I think that anybody who knows the formula maybe knew that Lincoln was going to end up being outside of the top 4, but we know that there's a big kind of a elimination game this weekend between 2 of the top 4 teams. So Lincoln will move back up, but Helix is 9th right now, and I think they're stronger than that. And not to say that Mater Dei wasn't maybe going to win that game against Helix, but I think Helix is playing pretty great, despite that one loss, which was against a superior opponent like this one, Dave. I mean, Helix is surely 4 or 5 touchdown underdogs, if not more, if you really looked at the power ratings. The computer says they're even a bigger underdog against her. I guess it's possible, considering what happened in the Cathedral game. Helix has to bottle down and just try to, continue to be competitive in this game, take small victories out of it, play as hard as you can, and gain from that experience. And that's what they're going to do over the next 2 weeks if they don't spring an upset next week. But right now, the Highlanders, I agree with you about Jesse. I mean, he's playing over Ortiz, obviously, and he looked good, right? I mean, he had over 200 yards, I think, last week. And Washington, he's a game breaker. He's a game changer. He's one of the few backs in the county that I don't know if there's anybody working as hard as Christian Washington. I don't know how they're going to determine the most valuable player this year, but offensively and defensively, Washington is busting his tail out there.
I told you I like to refer to him as the bowling ball. I don't think he really has a competition, because for the most part, it's running back by committee. And really, the way they've done that, they've done it in high school, they've done it in community college, the major universities, and even in the NFL. There's no longer an Emmitt Smith or a Marshall Falk, carrying the ball 50 times a game. No, it's a committee now, I think it's because of injury, and they just weren't getting the same performance that they were getting years ago. So, my hat's off to Washington for being able to carry the ball as often as he does. And hands down, if you had to ask me, I would give him a trophy right now, because I'll tell you what, he is the solo running back that is chewing up yards left and right, and he's just full steam ahead. So if he was the MVP, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, maybe if you look at, we've had some great performers in the East County so far this year, but he might be the top player. The Highlanders had some spectacular plays and they were playing Saints, Dave. Let's not forget. Now, Saints does have a lower, their record isn't as good this year. Looks like they're down, but they've lost to good teams. They played a good schedule so far.
Is that your gauntlet series?
The gauntlet series, right? Cathedral wins, right? Cathedral should join the Trinity League, I think. I'll talk about Cathedral. Maybe, okay, let me just talk about it now and then get this out of the way since Helix is our highest rated team, right? Cathedral led De La Salle 14-0. They are heads and shoulders above every team. They're number 2 in the media poll. I respect anybody who wants to put Carlsbad because of their 5-0 record. If they really believe that Carlsbad is number 1, I mean, Cathedral is going to be a multiple touchdown favorite if it came down to those two teams, for the championship. And Cathedral's ranked number 1 in the power ratings, the CIF power ratings that just came out, and the computer power ratings as well. The media poll picked Carlsbad, gave them, I think they split the first place votes. It was very, very close. It was only 4, so you could almost say they were tied, but Carlsbad has the advantage right now. Lincoln's up there at number 3, but Lincoln is going to play a big game in Cathedral, and Cathedral will be expected to win. I guess anything could happen in that game. So, right now, Cathedral head and shoulders, I think, above every team. I still voted them number 1 despite a second loss, and I have Carlsbad number 2, Lincoln number 3. They're practically interchangeable, but we're going to see the Mission Hills, Torrey Pines, and that situation. Carlsbad and Torrey shake out this weekend, and there'll be a little bit of mix up at the top probably after this week. And Helix, I got off track, Dave. I just want to mention Gustin had those spectacular plays for Christian, but want to mention a couple Helix plays. Quincy Heron, 67-yard touchdown, certainly his biggest splash on the varsity scene with that play. And Puka Noah may have had the most spectacular play. He jumped up and made an interception at like the 7-yard line and ran it in for a touchdown. That was pretty awesome too. So, Helix is going to, I'll call it, I'll say Servite by 4 touchdowns, please. Somewhere in there. Try to keep it close, Helix, because this team is incredible. And I think the computer has it by like 60, Dave, to be honest with you.
Well,
okay. That's enough on that game. We can move on, right? You probably have some breaking news on this game, I would imagine. It's number 13, Granite Hills. They're going to travel to Walden Grove in Arizona. I can't even say the city, and I'm pretty good with pronunciations, I think, even though I've botched a bunch of names since we've been doing these shows. But Saharita, Arizona is where Walden Grove is, Dave. And this will be the first time the Eagles have ever traveled out of state for a game, and the first time that they've traveled out of the section since 1980 when they faced Pacifica High of Garden Grove, a game that Granite Hills won 10-7 as part of their 7-2-1 season that saw the Eagles finish second in the Grossmont League that year, 1980, the Grossmont League. Dave, what do you have about the with the Eagles? Some breaking news.
Well, interestingly enough, and I was trying to pronounce that myself, but
well, you say it. Saharita, Sahuarta. It could be Sahuarta. Sahari.
That's going to be the tongue twister for the evening.
Walden Grove, they're 2-1.
After talking with Coach Cobbs, he was talking about the funny thing is, and I don't know, I think he said it's a different part of the state, so he probably won't have the time to do it. Originally, I know he was going to make a kind of a weekend out of it and go see Arizona State, but I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. But at any rate, from what he was mentioning, they do have a few good players, and they're one of the better teams in the Tucson area. He said hopefully the kids can be focused, especially, having to travel. We all know even what happened, was it a couple of years ago? I think it was 2017, 2018, when Mountain Empire had a long travel and the whole bus situation. That was a interesting story within itself. At any rate, so the news is the Eagles are going to go with 2 quarterbacks, a lot of people are doing these days. A lot of teams have gone with the 2, and it's going to be Nico Tomasello, and it's going to be transfer from Helix, Parlin Sanders. And then Lance is not going to make the trip, according to Coach Cobb.
Lance Rogers.
Correct. So
he was terrific last week.
Yeah, I didn't get the tidbits that go along with that, but I guess for
Rogers is out.
Yeah, so he's not going to make the trip. So it'll be Sanders and Tomasello basically battling for that spot. And I don't even know if it's going to be a battle, maybe just so they can give 2 different looks and maybe create some confusion against this Tucson team. And he was also saying that, it adds a different element. But the only unfortunate thing is Sanders is still trying to learn the playbook. And so he's going to need a little longer. So I'm assuming that he's going to probably come in for, situational spots just to change it up a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just a handful of snaps just to kind of familiarize himself with the system. But who knows? Maybe he picks it up quickly, and it's going to be a battle. And with the turnovers going on as of late, whether it be a drop ball, whether it be interceptions, something needs to be done on the offensive side of the ball. So I think it's a very good idea to.
Well, Lance Rogers, I'm sorry that because Lance lit it up. He completed his first 12 passes last week, had 161 yards. I mean, I would think he won the job. So hopefully it's not an injury. We don't know why Rogers is not making this trip. But here's the thing, Dave. I mean, the Eagles. Look, a lot of these intersectional games, and no disrespect to the Eagles, they're going out of state for the first time. It's a difficult thing to do, but they're expected to win this game. I mean, but Walden Grove, the only team on the Eagles' schedule that's a lesser opponent is Valhalla. So every other opponent is tougher than Walden Grove. The Eagles are expected to win this game, Dave. I would think no matter which quarterback, if Nico's in there or whatever, they're probably favored by several touchdowns.
Well, and we've talked about it so many times, and I think, I don't know if it's Coach Cobb's heard us say it so many times, but the last thing he said, every game's winnable. And how is that every game winnable? No turnovers. And we've talked about it every single week, and I think that's been their Achilles heel. So I think if they play like they did last week, limit the turnovers, I think that the Eagles should have no problem with this Tucson team. And even with the road trip, I am going to go with the Eagles by 14.
Yeah, I mean, they were great against Otay Ranch, right? I mean, look, Rogers was in there at quarterback, and he did a great job. So, Otay Ranch, pretty good team coming into the season. Maybe they've been a slight disappointment, but they certainly rate as a pretty darn good team. And the Eagles did the job and kind of gained the points back that they lost in those 2 games against the tough teams, right? The Madison and the Eastlake, the back-to-back losses. So beating Otay in a game that I wasn't sure, I was like, wow, I mean, they lost these games at home, and now they got to go on the road to this site change. I'm sorry, but, Jaquail Hodges, Dave, can you tell me, he was injured, but he's an impact player, and he's a confident player. He says, you look at me, you look at Thomas, you're looking at 2 explosive players, and I think what he's hinting at is we have more explosive players than the other teams in the Hills League. Even though maybe we've been set back a little bit, I'm here to say that I'm part of this, and I'm one of these top players in the Hills League. That's what Jaquail kind of said. I mean, I'm probably speaking for him.
Well, let's not forget about Zach Darling. He's another added what we could call it a 3-headed monster. I think that it's undiscovered talent that a lot of the league is not aware of yet, and I think that by winning that game against Otay, I think that gave a lot more confidence, not only to the offense, but also to the defense. And I think that they go up to Tucson, take this one home, and, have a happy bus ride home. I think that Granite could be right back on its way up and be right behind Helix to battle for the title. Just
Well,
saying.
look, I have Helix rated above all the teams. The media poll has Helix rated above all the teams. And, Granite Hills has taken a little bit of a hit. But you know what? In those CIF power ratings that just came out, you know who the big winner is? Granite Hills. They are in 8th in the Division 1 power ratings. Helix is 9th. Grossmont is 10th. So the Grossmont Hills League teams are right there, and they're right now battling right to try to get up to get a home game. So man, that's going to be interesting. So
All I'm saying is
not to lose a home game, I guess, right? They're right in there at 8. We know the top 4 teams go to the Open, and so I just think our teams are a little. They look good in these CIF power ratings. I think the Hills League was a little bit of a winner. I talk about how I think that these ratings are not as accurate as the other computer, but it's benefited, I think, the Grossmont Hills League just slightly right now. I don't know how that's going to shake out once we knock off those 3 weeks, those games, and who's going to win now. I don't know. Helix is maybe expected to win, but Granite Hills, Dave, look, the Eagles, the Helix is young, right? I still think they're very, very good, but the Eagles have all that veteran experience, especially on defense with Zach Burton, Carter Braun, Trustin Heck. And look at that play that Easton Peterson had last week, the 94-yard interception return. He was playing great before that. I mean, I know that was a little bit in garbage time, but he was having a great game. And Jordan Glaze, he's only a sophomore. He's one of the best defensive players in the conference. So, man, the Eagles, they'll win this game. Walton Grove won 56-0 last week. They're averaging 400 yards of total offense. Watch out for they have a receiver, Hoover, who has 5 of their 7 touchdowns. But, Granite Hills should win by 2 or 3 touchdowns, and they're probably favored by a little more than that. The computers don't know that Rogers is playing. And I'm not saying that Rogers is ahead of Nico at this point. I leave that for you to investigate and find out for me. We just know that Rogers isn't available, and he played well last week. And I guess just avoid those turnovers. That's what you said.
Well, I'm just saying that I think it's going to come down to closer to the end of the season, and maybe even some of those head-to-head matchups. Who knows? It could be Helix and Granite again, head-to-head, playing each other, and whoever wins that one could get the title. And and don't worry, Coach Holmes, I am not forgetting about the Foothillers, but we need to get the pedal on the metal with you guys as well very soon.
Yeah, and we know all the teams from the Hills League are in the playoffs because they're in Division 1. But right now, you talk about Helix and Granite, they're 8-9, but Grossmont's 10. Don't forget about us, says Grossmont. And look, Steel Canyon. What, Dave?
That's what I was saying. Don't forget Steel Canyon.
Well, yeah, they're 13th right now, and they're going to have something to prove once we get into the league play because they're playing Cathedral this week, and they're 1-4. I think the graphics man got that one wrong. So, but I'm pretty sure. I think Steel's 1-4 right now. So, Dave, Cathedral Catholic, they're listed at number 2 here. I have them at number 1. I think they are above the other teams. I think they're above Carlsbad. I think they will beat Lincoln in their big game. And I just respect Cathedral this season as being the elite team in the league, in the county. And it's Steel Canyon. Look, these two teams, they kind of have a little bit of rivalry. They played for like 10 straight years until like 2012, but then they stopped playing until I believe they might have played 2 years ago.
Well, you got to respect Coach Scott Longerbone, excuse me, for wanting to face these elite teams. And I know we've talked about it before. Builds character and really test the talent that you have on your team. But this year's Cathedral team, like I said, it says number 2, but I'm going to say they're number 1 for sure. I'm going to say that good luck to Steel Canyon this week, but there's just too many weapons, and Cathedral is just they're just phenomenal. And again, I want to agree with you on that as well. Not Cathedral. Lincoln is a great team as well, but I can tell you right now they match up. I'm going to tell you right now that Cathedral, I think, is the better of the two.
Yeah, and let's see. It was Steel, their biggest shutout loss in the school's history last time they met. So interesting Cal High sports. I think they've kind of fallen off as gaining the respect of, I don't know, some of the media or whatever. But they have Carlsbad 13th and Cathedral 20th in the state. So I don't know. Cathedral's probably favored by 4 touchdowns here, maybe more, but Cathedral should win this one. I've got Cathedral winning. Hope Steel Canyon can come out of this and be ready for the league play. And I think they will be. I think they can give our team. I think they can get back to a little bit of form those last 3 weeks. I think they can upset one of the teams, Dave. I think they can maybe beat Grossmont. They could maybe beat Granite. Maybe they could beat Helix. I don't know if any team can sweep. I think there could be an upset, and it could be at the hands of Steel Canyon. We know they're going to be battle tested. Steel's played a tough schedule.
Well, we already know that, especially Steel and Granite over the years, those two teams, they have been probably, if you're going to get a ticket to a football game when those two play each other, you better either head over to watch the Cougars at home or head over to Valley Stadium and watch them play at Granite. Because I'll tell you what, those two teams go at it, and they go at it for the complete 4 quarters, sometimes even into overtime. But on this one, unfortunately, I'm going to have to take Cathedral by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Givens was sharp last week, and I noticed Derek King, he's the college player. Eric King was, I believe, playing quarterback, and I don't think we saw Matthew Barton, so I don't have any information on that, but I don't think I saw Barton in the game last week. And certainly would like to, I think at this point, have Steel Canyon have both their quarterbacks. All right, Dave. It's with a heavy heart that Mira Mesa will host their first game since the passing of head coach Chris Thompson. We know that Mira Mesa was back in action last week. Man, it must have been tough for them to have to go up and play Loyola last week, just 2 weeks after the passing of Thompson. I can't imagine what this team is going. They have a very, very strong coach now leading them through this time. And just my thoughts are with this team. And I know that everyone's going to be, pulling for our Foothillers, but I want to pull for Mira Mesa too this week and just hope the best for them. We talk about, Dave, the Miguel Santana game, all these cancellations. We don't know, how anyone can be affected. And when you look at Thompson, he fought cancer. We know that the type of people that can be affected by the bad respiratory illness that has afflicted us for the last 2 years. And we're just so sorry. But God, such a credit to them, Dave, to get back this program and get out in the football field and play this week. And it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a heck of a game. It really is. All emotion aside, it's going to be a close game. Mira Mesa's still a good team with good players. With Alex Zappia, he had 267 yards last week. Makai Thompson rushed for over 100. Tyjon Evans, 2 receiving touchdowns. Mira Mesa only lost by Helix to 7.8 points, 28-20 in that season opener, Dave. It's going to be an emotional night, and it's going to be just an incredible night.
Well, Coach Holmes had a couple of things to say. And as you know, he said, because I asked him how different it's going to be not seeing Thompson on the other sideline.
Yeah, they work together, right?
Right, and said he definitely will be different. Coached with Thompson at Helix for a year, and he mentioned he was a great coach, and that he was an even better mentor. And his kids were his heart, and they played with big hearts. And he expects the players also, every single last one of them, to be playing their hearts out on behalf of Coach Thompson. He also mentioned about the O-line, his O-line, that they need to find a breakout, well, kind of an assistance to finding a breakout running back to take control. Really, they haven't had a breakout.
They're averaging 1.5 yards a carry. Dave Grossmont's got to find a running game. They're not going to beat Mira Mesa.
And that's exactly what he was talking about. And the point is they haven't had anybody step up to be that guy so far. And the last time we saw Tucker, it's Robert Tucker, and we haven't had anybody since. And he was definitely a breakout running back. And man, he had at least 30 or 40 carries a night. Then he goes on to talk about Mira Mesa and how their defense is stout. We need to take advantage of any holes that come up in their defense. And again, we just mentioned it, is establish a run so they can open up the play action. But that's the thing. I mean, they really have to have somebody step up. Maybe even a fullback. They need somebody to carry the rock, because everybody's in a know. Everybody knows what's going to happen. Oh, it's going to be Trenton Giles, and he's going to go to Roddick, or he's going to go to to Gio, and he's also hoping that not only gets a big game out of Giles, but they're also hoping that Pudge it has a breakout game as well. We haven't heard his name called out in a while either, so I'm hoping he steps up and has a big game as well. I mean, the way they came out of the gate against Sweetwater, they were hitting on all cylinders, and then they had that upset against El Camino. But since then, it's just I don't know that it's if they lost their identity or what's going on, but they have got to get a running game established, or I think the leading rusher still is Giles. And that's just him scrambling out of the pocket.
Well, that was a tough ask last week against the Cajon Cowboys, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, but that was a tough game, up there in the Inland Empire when you're playing a Cajon team. I don't know, Dave. Mira Mesa is going to be playing with a lot of emotion, and they played admirably last week as well. They went on the road. I mean, I know they lost, to the Cubs, but tough to go on the road. I just can't believe that this, it's just incredible that a team doesn't wrap up. They could have quit the season. Thompson would never have wanted that. But just to have to fire it up, 2 weeks later, just to gather your breath. I mean, lay your coach to rest. I just am just flabbergasted. And we've said some stupid things, Dave, you and I, over the last 18 months, regarding the disease. And Dave, here's the thing. You just wish that we knew, who is going to,
susceptible.
Who's susceptible? We know who's susceptible, but who has it right? Who has it bad? Who has the real disease? And that's just something we've never been able to figure out. But we're playing on because of our vaccinations, and it's just a time for everyone to remember that when those games get canceled, that just because it's not about the kids rubbing elbows out there on the field and we think that they're going to get sick. It's someone else that can be affected in our lives, right? Because we all have different situations, different living situations. Sometimes we live with grandparents or see them more frequently, or that's just the way life is. So someone, even if no one gets affected, that's great. but someone could. So, okay.
I think
Dave Grossmont, let me just say, Dave, in 2019, Thompson, they were coming off that incredible season, and Thompson and the Marauders played Grossmont, and Grossmont won 43-14 early in the season. I think Mira Mesa is going to have a tremendous amount of emotion. Look, Grossmont lost to Rancho Bernardo 32-6. If you look at the power ratings right now, I'm talking about the computer power ratings, the ones I like. Mira Mesa and Rancho Bernardo are like even. So Grossmont really has to turn it around, like you said, with a running game or somehow, or they're going to lose this one. I've got Mira Mesa winning this one by a point.
Yeah, I'm just very hopeful that Grossmont gets it together, and hopefully somebody steps up. And I think the offensive line is good enough to where they can create those holes, but we need somebody to step up. And I think, as you mentioned too, if it's if it's just going to be throwing 50 times a game, you're not going to win a lot of games that way. And whether or not he's a scrambling quarterback or not, it's just not going to happen. Or the next thing, and heaven forbid that happen, but we don't want, the next thing is a possible injury, and we don't want to see that either. So that's basically it. Hopefully they find a running game this week. Maybe that's what they're focusing on right now and practicing. Hopefully that's going to happen. But from what I see on paper and from what I've seen in the past few weeks, I'm going to have to, unfortunately and fortunately, go with Mira Mesa. And I'm going to go with Mira Mesa by 14. And God rest your soul, Coach Thompson, great guy, and even better mentor to all these kids. And no offense to any of the other coaches, but if every coach could be like Coach Thompson and the way that he mentored these kids, boy, we'd really have some fantastic kids and some fantastic adults. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, okay, he had the respect and admiration of all of his peers. I think that was obvious. So, and we'll keep an eye on Mira Mesa Day, because you look at the Division II situation. Mira Mesa is third, but you think of Christian fifth, right in there in that mix, and La Jolla, I said, was eighth when we talked about that game. Scripps Ranch is on top, of course, in Division II, followed by Poway, Mira Mesa, Otay Ranch, then Christian. Okay, now Dave. Interesting game out here. I believe this is the first meeting between these two teams ever, and I think it is homecoming at Mountain Empire, and I think that they can win this one. But, Dave, you talk about Larry Clark being so important to the Red Hawks, and, him playing that with that cast on his arm or whatever he had on his arm. And he is the best player on the team, but he might not be the most important, because the Red Hawks have had it tough since their quarterback went down with that broken ankle.
I think that the Red Hawks really had a shot. You and I both saw it. They came out of the gate 51-0. They were everything was looking up for them. Coach Van was talking about how great everybody was meshing together and a very tight unit. Offensively and defensively, we saw how Clark was just chewing up yards left and right, 200 yards plus, and then averaging 12 tackles a game. I mean, just all around. And then Corey Van chucking the ball, and some great passes, some great receivers, and then, like I said, running the ball. I mean, they had the makings of possibly, finishing the season maybe even 6-4. But the injury bug, unfortunately, it hit Mountain Empire, and it's been continuing to hit them ever since. The last update that I got from Coach Fan today, more bad news. Corey probably won't be back for quite a while, maybe even towards the end of the season, if he's lucky. Also, and you remember he had a big game, I think 2 weeks ago. Landon Lasky, he's also out, the defensive end that made quite a few great plays You remember, and Larry Clark, they're basically just saying he's going to be limited on both sides of the ball. With especially running the ball. I mean, I don't think we're going to see much offense out of him, and I think that that's going to be crucial, and that's going to hurt the Red Hawks considerably. And how did he put it? Coach Van just said it's a crazy year with players getting injured, and he just can't believe it. Another player that's out, Rod Gonzalez, Chaz Ennis, also likely out.
Do they have enough players, Dave?
They still have enough players to play, but boy, they're becoming very anemic on. If I honestly, I think if they have another 2 or 3 players go down, that's going to be unfortunate. We talk about COVID all the time, the COVID protocols, but can you imagine this team just injuries? Having that many,
their best player. I mean, well, they don't have a lot of players to begin with, but these guys are all their,
No, these are their top. Every single one of those players are playmakers, and Larry Clark, he's going to play cast or not. He's going to go in there, and from what I understand, he will not stay on the sidelines. He's a gamer, and he's going to go out there and he's going to do everything that he possibly can to help his team win. I'll tell you what, once he gets out of that cast, that guy's going to be a real gem, I think, as he continues his football career.
Well, it's too bad because Van was looking better every game, and he's only a sophomore, so we are going to see Corey Van lead this team in the future, and this might be an elimination game in Division 5 of the numbers that came out. Hoover is 13th. Mountain Empire is 17th. I don't trust these numbers right now because Hoover, here's the problem with the CI. Okay, Hoover, it says they're 2 and 3, but I even though I think we're right, I think they're 1 and 3. So that's going to affect the ratings, not for every team. It's not like everything's all screwed up. Everybody'd be like, oh my God, one team's wrong, but it will affect those teams down there at the bottom near the bubble. They'll fix that eventually, but right now I can't trust the numbers necessarily. Hoover could be actually closer to. It's a tightly rated game. I'll tell you that. Mountain Empire, the computer ratings say, not the CIF ratings have it close. Computer ratings might have Mountain Empire maybe 10 points or more better, but with all these injuries, I have to think this is a close matchup. I'll go with Mountain Empire. Right? They're at home, and it's homecoming, but it looks like a toss-up.
Well, I agree with that, and here's the thing. Let's back up a little bit and let's think about the Hoover game and our Elkhorn Valley Braves that played Hoover, and how closely played that game was. The Braves were within two or three plays, or I should say, they ran out of time. Otherwise, they could have come back and beat the Cardinals, and that would have been the first time in quite a while. So if you look at that, you look at Mountain Empire, I think that this, even considering all the injuries, I think Mountain Empire still has a shot. Now, if they had all their players healthy, I would have said Mountain Empire by 2 touchdowns easily. But at this point, I'm going to have to say Mountain Empire because it is homecoming, but I'm going to say by a point. And that's as far as that goes. But as you mentioned before, I think it is completely an elimination game. And so we definitely hope for the best for these poor Red Hawks that have just been through the ringer. It's I know it's not COVID, but I think it's just as terrible for kids this age that they strengthen themselves, they really work hard in the weight room, doing their cardio, and then to have their season on one play, possibly some of them just having their season ended.
Yeah, that's the thing that's with football, right? Because there's it's so hard to get to a next level of football, right? We see it on that if you get injured, that it's just if you're a senior and you get injured, it's like that might be it, because if you're just a high school, not to say just a high school player. I mean, it's a great accomplishment to make a high school varsity team. It's to be on any of these teams, you're out there, you want to have fun with your friend, but you want to play. And if you can't play and your season ends and you don't play anymore, that's it. So, okay, well, so Dave, I think Hoover's 1-3. I mean, we just covered them because they played.
The Braves.
I'm going with Mountain Empire. Yeah, they just played Foothills Christian. Hoover just played Foothills Christian. We'll talk about that as our last game. I'm sorry to keep you so long, but we both. Are you taking Mountain Empire, Dave, or?
I'm taking Mountain Empire, and let's not forget about El Capitan.
Yeah, we could talk about El Capitan. Let's just finish the games. El Capitan has a bye this week, right? So.
Right. I just wanted to add some things.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about one more game, but I just want to make sure we're picking Mountain Empire. I'm picking them because it's home and it's homecoming, and there's not going to be very many points scored in this game, right, Dave? It could be 14-7 or something like that. Could be 7-0. It could be 7-2 or something.
I'm gonna pick Mountain Empire, but I'm gonna pick them by 1 point. Who knows? It could be 7-3.
Yeah. Okay. Wasn't it like 2-0 last week for in the Mountain Empire game for like the whole game or something? Okay. So I'll talk about Foothills Christian. I just want to mention Foothills Christian this week. They're playing the O'Farrell Falcons, Dave. The Foothills Christian Knights won last week over Hoover. They won their first 11-man game in several years. A lot of reports said that was their first Foothills Christian 11-man victory ever. But you remember our great friend Steve Perdue. He's the one that turned that program into a football. They had played for a year or two, and Steve Perdue took over and turned them into an instant champion. Your dad's good friend, Steve Perdue. And they had a couple of top players back then as well. And they won 2 league championships in a span of 3 years. They won a couple of playoff games. They have a lot of 11-man, I would say a lot of success, but they have had success at the 11-man level. That's why I thought that the program would adapt quicker than they have so far since coming back to 11-man football this season. They were supposed to come back last year, but they didn't have enough players in the spring because Foothills Christian doesn't have many students, and we know that Foothills Christian plays some other sports pretty well. So O'Farrell just won their first game in school history. They had lost their first 20 games, I believe, of the program, and they just won their first game as well. So I think Foothills Christian has some experience here, and I think that they will win. The last time Foothills Christian had won before last week in 11-man was 2013, and then they went 2014 winless. That's why they went down to 11-man. The computer has Foothills here, I think, as an underdog to O'Farrell, but I think Foothills Christian is going to beat O'Farrell. O'Farrell's won 1 out of their last 21 games. So I think Foothills Christian, this would be a chance for them to turn the corner. They are currently 8th in Division 5. O'Farrell is 4th, so O'Farrell is ranked higher, and they are at home. So I think it's a little bit of an upset that I'm picking here, but I'm going with Foothills Christian. So in that Division 5, Dave, so Foothills Christian 8th, and we mentioned Elkhorn Valley 14th, Hoover around 13th, Mountain Empire 17th. So Foothills Christian is technically ahead of all those teams. All right. Dave, I just wanted to mention also, before we talk about maybe the Vaqueros and get out of here, that Montel Allen stopped by, and he wanted to mention that the SDFNL All-Star Game invitations are being sent out. So keep playing well, guys, and show out. Be respectful of your opponents. Montel likes gentlemanly play. He doesn't want any, you know what I mean. Montel likes guys who are upstanding, maybe does real good, maybe social media profile a little bit, and good performers that are looking for opportunities, especially at the Division II level. Seriously. We know that through the SDFNL All-Star Game, Dave, we've seen plenty of players go on to play at schools around the country. And Montel's a big part of getting that together, along with Ruben Pena and the crew, and the great photography crew that they've assembled as well at SDFNL. We appreciate their partnership so much over the years, and I'm sure you'll have Montel on to promote his game on December 23rd. Wow, that's right up to Christmas. But that's a great week for the players to practice together and meet a lot of coaches looking for that type of talent, that Southern California talent, that San Diego talent that disperses all over the country.
Sounds good.
All right, Dave, you got some sponsors, and we'll talk about the El Capitan Vaqueros. They do have a bye this week. I will mention their rating, of course. I did mention a little bit because of the relationship that they have with all of those teams, right, in Division 3. But they are trailing Santana and West Hills right now. But tell me about El Cap, another great performance by those guys, by the Yoakley brothers, by Angel, who's looking great at running back. Are they getting their players back after the bye? Do we know yet?
Well, I know that
Alex, I specifically
I know
in Xavier Peace.
I know that's what I was getting at. You'll definitely be at peace to know that Xavier should be back next week, according to Coach Berner. So I think even all these games that they've or these last 2 games that they've won without the services of Xavier in the backfield, they've done pretty well. And then also, as you mentioned, Alex Baea is going to be back the week after. So he won't be back next week, but he will be back the following week. And I'll tell you what, as they get into the smack dab into the middle of league and those games coming up where they're going to be playing the Santanas and the West Hills, I think that's a perfect time for him to come back. Because as you know, especially on the defensive side of the ball, he's a very fierce competitor, and I'm sure he's feared by those offensive players on the other side of the ball. So I definitely
I thought the Braves did great against him, Dave. That was wild how the Braves got off to the lead last week. I thought the Braves were terrific.
Well, you know what? And that's exactly as you saw, and the quotes that I got from Coach Berner. He was very impressed with the way the Braves came out and talking about just, how classy the Braves played. And he mentioned, you saw it. He mentioned that they have some good players, some very talented players on their team. So it's good to see that coaches like that, they recognize the great talent. But with those 2 folks coming back, I can tell you right now, that is the exact right time for them to show up, because I think that's what could push El Cap over the top with those 2 key players. And so
good point.
Definitely hoping, Mr. Peace, if you're watching, looking forward to you coming back next week and see what you can do in the backfield. I'm sure you'll be 100% by that time. And Alex, we're also looking forward in 2 weeks to you coming back and making some huge tackles and helping the Vaqueros to get to the top and battle those West Hills Wolfpack and also those Santana Sultans.
Dave, think of all the fun we've had so far through the first half of the season, of the regular season, and we still have all these big games to come in the Hills League and the Valley League and the other leagues as well. Christian, obviously, we let off with them, and it starts this week.
Western League.
Yeah, it starts the Eastern League. I said the Western League is tops, and I think that's what you were saying. But the Eastern League with the Christian going to be a great race with those teams as well. So, Dave, great job breaking the news this week on that Mount Miguel Santana cancellation. I hope we covered it all. 85 minutes of hardcore East County prep football action for Dave Dickens. I'm Ramon Scott. Thank you for joining us.